10:22 is the time. Need to Know with Jeff Angelo is the program. Yes, they're coming for your gas stove. Remember earlier this year, that was all a conspiracy theory. Now, well, New York has reached an agreement to become the first state to ban natural gas hookups in new construction. Writing about this, I noted this column on the website Real Clear Energy, is Sarah Montalbano. And Sarah is on the Davidson Family Dentistry Newsmaker line currently. Sarah, welcome to Iowa Radio. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Okay, so Sarah, what advocates for this say, and you write about this in your column, is that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions, will slow climate change, will avoid indoor air pollution. Will a gas stove ban work that way?
Absolutely not. What the gas stove ban is going to do is it's going to restrict consumer choice. You're not going to be able to get the gas stoves that you want in new construction, and it's not likely to do anything for climate change at all. Just because so much of this electricity is produced with natural gas, all you're doing is shifting it back to the power plant.
Okay, so Sarah, that's what I keep hearing in regard to the climate change agenda, which I just find fascinating, which is we're going to ban this thing or we're going to do this thing. And then you say, well, but that requires this over here, which it doesn't get, in fact, produce greenhouse gas emissions. So what do you think is going on here where you kind of have what I would call like sleight of hand policy? It's like, well, over here we're doing this thing. Just let's not notice that over here this thing is happening, which negates all of our efforts. What do you think's going on, Sarah?
Yes, I think it's really about virtue signaling, and I've written this in some other columns on related issues, that it's just like we need to feel the need that households are doing something about this. While, major manufacturers are continuing to emit, our elites are continuing to take as many flights as they'd like while telling us to reduce our carbon emissions. And it's just, I see all of this as so counterproductive, because if you really want to do something about climate change, the best thing to do is let the market do its work. If consumers really want electric stoves or they want more efficient gas stoves that have lower greenhouse gas emissions, they will be able to direct the market to do that. We don't need these kind of top-down government policies to make it happen.
Oh, but Sarah, you're trusting people. There's your problem. I mean, that's the thing. I'm with you. I think that if you, what I really like when we're talking about affecting real change in society is to talk to people about what your concerns are. For example, like we need less plastic in the ocean. And you talk to people about that and they go, okay, I'm concerned about that. And then they react to it. But we're not really willing a lot of times in the policy arena to do that, are we? We say you got to be forced to do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's what this kind of climate change issue has become, is people don't know what's best for them.
Yeah.
So we're going to make them do this, because otherwise, our whole planet is a disaster coming up right here if we don't immediately stop and do everything. And the whole crux of my argument in this column is that consumers can decide what works best for their situations. I'm from Alaska. In Alaska, there are homes using heating oil. There are homes that are primarily burning wood, because that is the most reliable form of energy in very, very cold winters. And I know New York's had so many cold winters like that too. 60% of them are using natural gas for home heating in 2021. That is a large group of people who have already decided what they like best. And who are we to tell them otherwise?
So, Sarah, in your column, which is on the website Real Clear Energy, by the way, the headline for listeners that are looking for it, natural gas hookup ban restricts consumer choice. You note, and I'll read your writing here, unlike the Consumer Product Safety Commission in January 2023 cited hidden hazards and childhood asthma as reasons to consider a ban. And one of the things that sentence made me think about is, where did this come from, Sarah? Like, all of a sudden we were hearing about it. All of a sudden. The Biden administration then was denying that there would be any effort to do it. Like, where do efforts like this come from, where suddenly we're hearing about it and suddenly governments are banning gas stoves?
Yes, the study that has been widely cited for this is not written by scientists. It's written by fairly progressive interest group.
Oh.
So they've come up with this idea for, this argument for health hazards. And, that's one of the things that I see is a big problem with this, because we have people making scientific judgments, health judgments, who are not at all qualified to do that. And that's where one of these big pushes came from with the Consumer Product Safety Commission. I will note that they are not pursuing that anymore, but now it is being discussed in the Biden administration's Energy Department for regulatory standards.
Yeah.
They're trying to produce more emission standards. Proposed regulations out right now that would effectively ban 50% of the gas stoves currently on the market. So I had to laugh in researching this article, because they were phrasing this as, well, 50% would pass. We'd still have 50% of this market left. And so it's one of these things that it's all being done under the guise of improved standards for these gas stoves. And also, dishwashers and all of these things that have come out very recently, I think, after publication of this piece.
No, that's absolutely right. And you just hit on this bigger issue, Sarah, that we just keep seeing all these regulations that we're like, oh, we're just upping the standards, but you're implementing basically the climate change agenda. You also note in your article, Sarah, that this is probably going to be challenged in court. Am I correct?
I do agree with that. I have not heard if there's any, current efforts right now, but there is precedent from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that overturned Berkeley, California's city ban on gas stoves because it basically, they found this Energy Policy and Conservation Act, which gives the final say to the federal government over to the states over restriction on energy use for appliances. So, they aren't able to put together these standards that preempt this. This federal rule basically says you can't do that. So I think it's very likely there's going to be constitutional challenges to New York's ban.
Absolutely. Sarah Montalbano, the column on the website Real Clear Energy, the headline is Natural Gas Hookup Ban Restricts Consumer Choice. Sarah, thanks very much for talking with me. Yes, you will be made to obey. Boy, Sarah and I having the radical idea of just talking to people and getting them to think about it.